Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy has done one of the most amazing jobs of trolling fans this past weekend at Star Wars Celebration that I have to acknowledge what's going on. And I imagine a lot of you are going, but Wes, you know what she's doing. She announced 3 movies, 2 of which are guaranteed to never ever see the light of day in a movie theater. Yes, there is no way that Rey movie, directed by somebody that's ever actually made a movie, is ever going to see the light of day. They're not even going to make it. The Ahsoka, Mandalorian, Boba Fett movie is obviously going to be made for Disney Plus. That'll never be in a theater, but she was not done. Kathleen Kennedy continued trolling people in interviews with IGN and Variety, and I was taken aback, and I have to respond, and I do have to recognize the game, because skill recognizes skill, and what Kathleen Kennedy is doing, trolling Star Wars fans, it's a sight to behold. I can't believe she can do all this stuff with a straight face. I am a middle child. I've basically been trolling people for 45 years of my life. I was also in the military for over 20 years. I'm a retired master sergeant in the Air Force. I was certainly trolling people my entire time during the military, because that's what you do in the military. You just mess with each other. And I had one of the best trolls ever. And it doesn't hold a candle to what Kathleen Kennedy is doing. I used to tell people that my lifelong ambition was to be an elephant poacher. And I would do it with the straightest face you could possibly imagine. I would sell people that I loved real ivory, and that synthetic ivory somehow offended me. And my life ambition was to go out there and get my hands on real ivory and put them on pianos worldwide. And I could get people to actually believe me. Anybody that loved animals would find me absolutely disgusting. They would walk away in minutes. It was some of the funnest trolling I've ever done in my life. I could even take somebody like Doc, who's been on the channel quite a bit. And I have found over the years, because we have been friends for numerous years, because of this channel right here, right now, and because of comic books. And I could even offend Doc with that story, because I would go in so much detail and I would sell it like you could absolutely not believe that I really wanted to go out there and kill elephants, even though the idea on itself is absolutely preposterous. No one should ever believe that anyone aspires to be, when they grow up, to be a poacher of elephants. But I could sell it because I was that good of a troll. And I've got to say this, mwah, job well done to Kathleen Kennedy for trolling the shit out of Star Wars fans. And I have to acknowledge it, and I have to feed into the troll. Speaking with IGN's Alex Stedman during Star Wars Celebration 2023, Kennedy was asked, I just want to see if there's any major hope that you want to strive for in this kind of new era of Star Wars that you just announced today. This is what Kathleen Kennedy, the queen of all trolls, absolutely beautiful when she says it, as straight-faced as you could possibly imagine, she said, "It is as I said, I think quality is always everything. We want to tell resonating stories that really speak to what Star Wars is. I don't really want it, and none of us want it to become like everything else. We want it to be something that continues to live up to the expectations that fans have. And that's the most important to all of us. Our expectations as Star Wars fans are the most important thing to Kathleen Kennedy, who strives for quality above all else." Under her watch, they have produced 2 of the worst films, not in Star Wars history, but in the history of cinema, in The Last Jedi and in The Rise of Skywalker. I will give The Force Awakens a pass because I was sucked in, and I somehow believed that they had a plan for all this, and they weren't going to make it just so terrible after that. We also got the only Star Wars film ever to lose money under Kathleen Kennedy, and her going out there and saying, we always want to tell stories that resonate with Star Wars fans. But we want to know what Star Wars really is. She thinks Star Wars is spaceships and sound effects. She has no idea what the Jedi is. She has no idea about a galaxy far, far away. I don't care if she was a producer on all the fucking films. She took nothing away from any of those meetings or any of the success of Star Wars along the way when she was associated with it. And when she was in charge, everything fell apart. Star Wars is a dead brand. No one really cares. But I do have to admit, that is beautiful trolling. To be able to say that with a straight face, like you've always reached for nothing else but quality in Star Wars, is absolutely hilarious and a job well done. Unfortunately for Kathleen Kennedy, we do have all the interviews from 6, 7, 8 years ago, before they even released their first Star Wars film, when she was talking about the Force is female and we don't want this to be a boys brand anymore. It needs to be a girls brand. We need to have girls that want to buy shirts for Star Wars, as if there were never any girls that ever liked Star Wars, despite it not being specifically aimed at women. Absolutely hilarious stuff. I couldn't believe this. And obviously that's the big troll here, but there were a couple of other ones when she spoke to Variety, and she is absolutely fucking with Star Wars fans. Variety asked Kennedy about the rumored Taika Waititi Star Wars project. This is what Kathleen Kennedy said. Taika is still working away. He's writing the script himself. He doesn't really want to bring others into that process, and I don't blame him. He has a very, very unique voice, so we want to protect that, and that's what he's doing. But we're going to make that one day. Kathleen Kennedy is an employee of Disney. Obviously, Marvel Studios is a part of Disney, and Marvel Studios makes movies, and they allowed Taika Waititi full creative range over Thor: Love and Thunder. He wrote the script and everything, and no one interfered, and we ended up with probably the worst superhero movie in the history of superhero movies. I would say it's worse than Steel. That's how bad I think Thor: Love and Thunder is. I think it's worse than X3. That's how bad I think Thor: Love and Thunder is. And obviously, Star Wars fans are, for the most part, geeks, and they're going to be aware that Taika Waititi was the big man in charge of Thor: Love and Thunder, was given full creative reign, and was able to write the entire thing without any co-writers, and we end up with one of the worst scripts in Hollywood history. She's absolutely screwing with us. There's no way in this world a Taika Waititi Star Wars movie ever comes out. Sure, I'm sure they contacted him, and maybe they gave him a few dollars just to pitch an idea or something, and maybe there was some type of time frame attached to that, and it hasn't passed up yet. But there's no way Kathleen Kennedy, who works for Disney and saw what Taika Waititi did to Thor: Love and Thunder, is going to be able to get that movie into production, not just because she wouldn't want it, and I do believe maybe she would, because she's an idiot and she doesn't really know anything about Star Wars or how to hire good directors. That's pretty much why Star Wars has fallen apart at the seams, because every single project she likes to announce has a bad creative person attached to it. People get pissed off, and then it gets forgotten about, and they never talk about it again for like 5 years or whatever. She knows that movie's never going to get made. She knows Bob Iger would never allow that to happen after what happened with Thor: Love and Thunder, but she's absolutely fucking with us. Mwah! Job well done, Kathleen Kennedy, keeping a straight face, once again, trolling the shit out of people. She was not done in her Variety interview. She was later asked about a second season of Obi-Wan. This is what Kathleen Kennedy said. That is not an active development, but I never say never, because there's always the possibility. That show was so well received, and director Deborah Chow did such a spectacular job. Ewan McGregor really wants to do another. Everybody's all hands on deck with what's been going on right now. As you can see by what we've had to show everybody at Celebration, we'll turn our attention to that again, maybe down the road. Obi-Wan Kenobi. The show was so well received, and the director did a spectacular job. You can't say that stuff with a straight face unless you are just a world-renowned, world-class troll, and that is what Kathleen Kennedy is doing. She knows Star Wars fans absolutely hated Obi-Wan, specifically Obi-Wan Kenobi fans, which I really didn't think was possible. If they had, just a couple of projects that they could make that I thought would be foolproof. The Obi-Wan Kenobi show starring Ewan McGregor as an older Obi-Wan on Tatooine, getting ready for the events of A New Hope, would be the one project that they couldn't fuck up. And they still managed to do it. It wasn't even about Obi-Wan. That's probably the biggest problem. He was just in the background as they made some chick the main star of the show, and it was all about her redemption, and he was just there. Next thing you know, he's fighting Darth Vader again, which makes absolutely no sense within canon, and all of a sudden, like, fucking Princess Leia is in the show, which makes no sense whatsoever, and you're just like, what an absolute shit show. I think they thought fan service and just bringing in some characters and events that people might resonate to would make the show bearable, as they told the story they really wanted to tell, which had nothing really to do with Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it blew up in their faces. Sure, a lot of people watched the show when it first aired, but the viewership steadily declined, and the only people that I know that watched the entire thing, it was like watching a train wreck. They couldn't turn away after a couple of episodes, not because it was good, not because it was Star Wars, and certainly not because they really liked this version of Obi-Wan and they thought he was being done justice. They couldn't look away because they couldn't believe what they were doing. They couldn't believe their eyes. They're like, I never thought that this could actually happen. They made an Obi-Wan show that I don't like, and the amount of badness that's in there, like, I just have to look at it. Like I said, it's like a flaming car wreck. Same thing that's happening with The Mandalorian. You've seen the viewers are down very badly in season 3. Recently, you had Lizzo, whoever the fuck that is, and Jack Black show up for cameos, and people just laughed at it. They rolled their eyes and they said, can you believe this was actually in Star Wars? And really the flagship Star Wars product that they have right now. And guess what? People hate season 3 of The Mandalorian now too. I don't know. I'm imagining it has nothing to do with Jon Favreau, because for the most part, everything he touches turns to gold. It feels like Kathleen Kennedy somehow got her dirty little mitts on The Mandalorian and ruined that project as well. But hey, Kathleen Kennedy's all about quality, right? All about bringing Star Wars that really resonates as Star Wars, even though she really hasn't produced more than 1 or 2 projects that even feel like Star Wars. And at this point, Rogue One feels like an absolute fluke. It doesn't feel like something that should have even been made because it was accidentally good. I guess if you're going to make that many projects, even if you are terrible at Star Wars, the law of probability states that you're accidentally going to make a thing or two that is actually good and worth watching. So absolutely job well done. A slow clap for Kathleen Kennedy from this middle child who's been trolling his entire life, from this retired master sergeant who was trolling people for 20 years in the military. I never could have brought it home quite as strong as you, Kathleen Kennedy. Game recognizes game, and that was absolutely great stuff this weekend. You literally put all of our jaws on the floor when you said the shit that you said, and it seemed like you genuinely meant it. So that's how you pull a big troll. Obviously, the next really big troll is going to be on Kathleen Kennedy. It's not going to be a Star Wars project. It's actually going to be Indiana Jones. The next huge failure waiting to blow up in Kathleen Kennedy's face before she exits Lucasfilm forever. If you haven't seen this, you got to check this one out right now. There's also a link in the video description.